Well, hello. I'm Dr. Carolyn Richardson, and this is Tips After the Visit, information that has been helpful to my patients and their parents. You might find this information useful also. For some topics, you may want to discuss the information with your child's pediatrician or medical care provider. Today, I will be talking about a common topic that comes up during the well child visit. When do I start my little one on baby food? We will be talking about both types of baby food, either the commercial baby food that you buy already prepared at the store, or those who choose to make their own baby food. Just a note of caution. If your child is on a restricted diet or has other digestive or other issues, you may want to discuss when to start baby food with either the child's pediatrician or the specialist that is managing your child. This is general information for babies who are on a regular diet. Now, for babies who have been exclusively breastfed, breast milk is all they need until they are 6 months of age. Be sure that your baby is getting the 400 international units of vitamin D, the little drops, one dropperful once a day, along with getting breast milk every day. At 6 months of age, that's the time that babies who are only getting breast milk will start baby food. For the other babies who are drinking formula, usually the rule of thumb is if the baby needs more than 32 ounces of formula a day or needs more than 10 breastfeedings a day, that's an indication that the baby now is ready to start adding food to the diet. A good thing is if the baby has head control, which means when they're sitting up, they can hold their head in a steady upright position. And if you set them in like a high chair or a little chair that has straps that you can secure them in, they're able to sit up with a little support. And usually this happens around 4 months of age. So sometime between 4 and 6 months of age, babies who are drinking infant formula can start baby food. Now, there are many selections in the store, many brands, but all the brands usually divide the baby food into like a first or a starter level, which is food that is very, very finely ground so that the baby won't choke. This food is almost semi-liquidy and is similar to the consistency of milk, which the baby has been used to drinking. So you want to make sure you look at the labels and check, is this a food for the right age that my baby is at this time? The baby food comes in little containers prepared like this, and it also has a little cap that you can remove and take out some of the baby food and replace. You can keep the other portion of the baby food that has not been used in the refrigerator, but you usually should go ahead and finish that unused portion off in the next 24 to 48 hours and always keep it under refrigeration. A good idea is to have your little plate for your baby, a divided plate. That makes it easy to put the different foods on there. You want to start with baby cereal. The cereal comes as like a little flakes or grain in a little powdery pack, and you want to use the little small bowl that you get with the baby food set. Usually put 1 tablespoon of the dry cereal in the bowl, and then you can either use some express breast milk or you can use the baby's infant formula and just slowly stir that into the flakes until it becomes a semi-liquid solution. Then you prepare your baby by saying, hey, today we're eating cereal. And just make them feel like this is the greatest thing. And then you hold the spoon close to the baby's mouth, see if the baby will open their mouth, and then accept the food. Sometimes, because this is a new texture and a new smell and a new substance in the baby's mouth, the baby may actually spit the food back out, not understanding that they're supposed to eat it. But that's why when you start food, you want to give the same food 3 times a day, kind of getting the baby used to eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you want to give the same food because if the baby says, well, they keep sticking this in my mouth, I guess I'm supposed to eat it. Then the baby will slowly accept the food, and after you've tested one food, you go to the next food. When you're introducing baby foods, you want to give the baby only one food at a time, 3 times a day for about 3 to 5 days in a row. That gives the baby a chance to get used to eating the food. And if there happens to be some problem where the baby might have loose stools or develops a rash or something like that, you will know what caused it because the baby is only eating one food. So after you've introduced the cereals, then you want to start introducing the vegetables. There's usually choices of just the basic single vegetables like green beans, peas, carrots, spinach. Just check the baby food section in your store and see all the varieties that are available. And remember, watch the age that is recommended. Is it either a first food that's very, very finely ground so that the baby will not choke on it, or the second food, which is for babies that can sit up well and have been used to eating and are able to swallow a little bit thicker food. Babies should not eat any food that has chunks that require chewing until they have developed their molars or their back teeth. Because until that time, when babies eat, they just kind of press the food against the top of their mouth, the roof of their mouth, and swallow. So if the food doesn't dissolve by their saliva or crush up quickly and easily into tiny parts, this could be a food item that could choke your baby. Remember, the airway or the little part of your baby's throat up here where the food could get stuck is no bigger than your baby's pinky finger. Look at your baby's pinky finger. You will see how small of a piece of food could actually cause a problem with choking and breathing difficulty for your baby. So you want to make sure that you're always picking food that's the right consistency, the right thickness for the baby's age and when they're starting food. Now, for mothers who want to make their own food, you still want to stick to the basic vegetables, your green beans, your peas, your carrots, sweet potatoes, squash, spinach, single foods, don't combine them, and you just steam these foods with water and then grind them up in either a blender or a food processor until they're very fine and you can almost pour them. Then a good tip is that you can use ice cube trays. Once you have made the pureed food or the finely ground up food, you can just pour the food into each one of the little sections of the ice cube tray. Put them in the freezer. And another good tip, if you have 2-gallon size Ziploc bags, you can just slide the ice cube tray right into the 2-gallon Ziploc bag, and that'll be a nice covering for the food while it's in the freezer. When it's time to feed the baby, you just pop one of those little sections out of the tray and warm it up and check the temperature to make sure it's not too hot and feed your baby. Now, how much should you feed the baby? When babies first start out, they might just eat 1 or 2 teaspoons and then be finished. But eventually, they'll get to the point where they can eat the entire container of baby food. So, until they get to that point, you want to just put a little bit of food on their dish. That way, if you don't use all the food, you don't have to discard it. Because if you put the spoon in the baby's mouth and then put it back into the container, the food is now contaminated and you cannot save that until later. So until you are sure that the baby is going to eat the entire container, put a little bit of food from the container in another plate so that you can feed your baby. Eventually, your baby will be able to eat 1 container of vegetables, a half of container of fruit, and a half a container of meat. Meat is usually introduced at 6 months of age. And again, the meat is also the single meats in the little containers like this. And you will start off giving them half of the container at lunchtime and the other half at dinner. Now, once you have sampled all the foods by themselves for 3 times a day, 3 to 5 days in a row, you're now ready to make combinations. It will take you about 3.5 weeks to test each food individually. But then after that 3.5 weeks, now you're able to make little menus for your baby. For example, for breakfast, you can make up the baby's cereal in their little bowl, and then to that, add one of the containers of fruit. After they eat the cereal and eat the fruit, then you can give them their formula to drink. Some breastfed mothers prefer to nurse their babies and then an hour later give them their food. But either way, the baby should be getting food because after 6 months of age, milk alone, either formula or breast milk, is not enough nutrition for your baby. So for breakfast, you can make a bowl, the little baby bowl of cereal, and add a container of fruit. For lunch, you want to use your little divided dish, and you can put in the top big portion the serving of vegetable. Then in the smaller portion, you want to put fruit, or you can put a little mashed potatoes or a little rice cereal, or in the other section, you want to put your meat, a half of the container of meat. You save the half of the fruit or potato that you didn't use at lunchtime and the half of the meat that you didn't use at dinner time. Keep that in the refrigerator until it's time for dinner. Then you just warm that up a little bit and add another serving of vegetable. And usually the babies can eat about 4 of these containers a day, 4 a day, plus their milk. Now their milk will kind of taper off and they'll start drinking about 24 ounces of milk a day or need about 4 or 5 breastfeedings. So you want to give the baby breakfast, lunch, and dinner in addition to their formula or the breast milk to make sure that they're getting enough to eat. Well, that's all we have for today. Check regularly for tips after the visit. If you found the information in this video helpful, click the thumbs up or the like sign. You can also click this little red subscribe button so that you can be notified when new updates are put on the Doc C. Rich 3 TV channel. Thanks for watching and enjoy feeding your baby.